My spouse said, "Don't come to the office event, you'll ruin it." I stood in the kitchen doorway, car keys in my hand, watching Harper adjust her earrings in the hall mirror. She didn't look at me when she said it, just tilted her head, smoothed her dress, and kept her voice soft, like she was asking me to pick up milk. "Ruin it how?" I asked. "Dean." She turned then, finally. Her expression was patient. Too patient. "You know how." I didn't know how. We'd built this company together. Well, I'd built it. And she'd smoothed the edges when my rough corners scraped against the board. 23 years of late nights and early meetings and handshake deals that became contracts. And now I was the guy who'd ruin the corporate event by showing up. "It's a networking thing," Harper continued. She picked up her clutch from the entry table. Donors, potential board members, the usual crowd. They're expecting a certain tone. And I'm the wrong tone. "You're brilliant at operations, Dean. You always have been. But tonight's about optics, image, the kind of small talk that makes people feel important." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's never been your strength." I set the keys on the counter. They made a small metallic sound that felt louder than it should have. "Logan will be there," she said. "Brooke, too. They'll represent the family. Our son's wife. Both of them polished and camera-ready in ways I'd never managed. Logan had my last name and none of my calluses. He wore suits that cost more than my first car and spoke in that smooth corporate language that sounded like meaning without ever committing to anything specific. "So I stay home," I said. "I think that's best." Harper touched my arm as she passed. Her perfume was expensive, something Tessa had recommended last Christmas. "I love you. You know that. But tonight needs to go smoothly." The door closed behind her with a soft click. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at my keys on the granite counter. The house was too quiet, too big. We'd bought it 15 years ago when the company started making real money, when Harper said we needed something that projected success. 5 bedrooms for a family of 4, a dining room we used twice a year, a home office where I worked 70-hour weeks while everyone else learned to play the game I'd apparently never understood. My phone buzzed. A text from Logan. "Love you, Dad. Thanks for understanding. Tonight's important for all of us." I read it 3 times. The phrasing was careful, grateful, the kind of message you send when you've already gotten what you wanted and you're just trying to keep things smooth. I opened a beer, sat on the back deck, watched the sun set over the privacy fence we'd installed because Harper said the neighbors were a bit much. The same neighbors who used to bring over casseroles when we first moved in, back when we were still the kind of people who ate casseroles. My phone lit up again around 9, a calendar notification, but not one I'd set. Harper's phone must have synced to the home network. The preview showed on my screen for just a moment. Transition meeting. Final. I stared at the notification until it faded. Transition meeting. Final. I wasn't invited to a transition meeting. I didn't even know there was a transition meeting. I went inside, opened my laptop, checked the company calendar, the one I'd always had full access to, the one I'd built when we first incorporated. The meeting wasn't there. I checked my email. Nothing. Checked the shared drives. Everything looked normal. Client files, project timelines, the usual operational chaos I spent every day untangling. But that notification had been real. I'd seen it. Transition meeting. Final. I grabbed my phone, pulled up Harper's contact, then stopped. If I called her now, she'd have an explanation. She always did. Something reasonable. Something that would make me feel paranoid for asking. And maybe I was paranoid. Maybe it was nothing. I set the phone down, finished my beer, went to bed in a house that felt like it belonged to someone else. The video came at 7:43 the next morning. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed, a message from Trevor in accounting. We weren't friends exactly, but we'd worked together long enough to have a rapport. He was one of the few people at the company who still talked to me like I was a person instead of a logo. The message just said, "You need to see this." The video was 12 seconds long. Someone's phone camera, slightly shaky, zoomed in on a corner of the conference room. People talking in small clusters, holding wine glasses. I recognized the wallpaper, the venue Harper had mentioned, the one with the vaulted ceilings and the Art Deco trim. In the background, barely visible over someone's shoulder, was a whiteboard on a rolling stand. I squinted at the screen, zoomed in. The quality pixelated, but I could still read the writing. Transition Plan, Phase 3, Remove. Dean Harlow Optics, Spouse Controls, Story. Timeline, 4 weeks. Someone laughed in the video. A bright, cheerful sound. I recognized it. My daughter Tessa. She was talking to someone just off camera, gesturing with her wine glass, her expression animated. Happy. I played it again. And again. The whiteboard was clear. My name. The word remove in all caps. Spouse Controls Story. My hand was shaking. I set the phone on the counter, stepped back, and stared at it like it might explode. 4 weeks. They'd given themselves 4 weeks to remove me from my own company. I picked up the phone, typed a response to Trevor. "Where did you get this?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "Someone sent it to our group chat, thought it was weird. Then I saw your name." "Who sent it?" "Anonymous. Probably someone from the event." "Dean, what's going on?" I didn't answer. I opened my email instead, started searching. Transition. Meeting. Timeline. Phase 3. The search came back empty. I tried the company server, the shared project folders, the archived communications. Nothing. Then I saw it. An email in my spam folder, forwarded by mistake, probably a reply all accident, the kind of thing that happens when someone hits the wrong button. The subject line, "Final notes, do not forward." I opened it. The thread was long. 6 people in the chain: Logan, Tessa, Harper, Brooke, someone from HR named Patricia I'd met twice, and an outside email address I didn't recognize. The most recent message was from 3 days ago. Logan had written, "Dad won't be at the event," Harper confirmed. "That gives us clean optics for Phase 3. Proceed as planned." Tessa's response, "Perfect. I'll prep the donor talking points. Make sure we control the narrative about transition timing." The next message was from the unknown address. "Board vote scheduled for January 15th. Stakeholder management list attached. If he refuses, execute Plan B." Plan B. I scrolled down. The attached document was a PDF titled Stakeholder Communication, Leadership Transition. I opened it. Skimmed the first page. Dean Harlow, founder and longtime operator, has decided to step back from day-to-day operations to focus on health and family. The board fully supports this transition and has appointed interim leadership to ensure continuity. Health and family. I read the phrase twice. They were going to say I was sick, unstable, that I needed to step away, and they'd packaged it so neatly that anyone reading it would nod and think, "That's probably for the best." My phone rang. Harper. I stared at her name on the screen. Let it ring. 4 times. 5. It went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text. "Morning. Just checking in. Hope you slept well. See you tonight?" I typed, "We need to talk." Her response was immediate. "About what? Everything okay?" I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded her the email thread. Hit send before I could second-guess myself. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then my phone lit up with a call from Logan. I answered. "Dad." His voice was too calm, too measured, like he'd been expecting this call. "Let's talk about this rationally." "Rationally," I repeated. "I know you saw something that upset you, but you need to understand the full context. This isn't what it looks like. What's Plan B, Logan?" Silence. "What happens if I refuse?" I asked. What's plan B? Dad, listen. I'm listening. I'm asking a direct question. What is plan B? He exhaled slowly, the kind of exhale you make when you're explaining something to a child. There are contingencies in place, legal protections, board protocols. This isn't personal. It's about the company's future. My company. Our company, he corrected. We've all built this. You, me, Mom, Tessa. And now we need to think about what's best for everyone, not just me. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? Another pause. Then, we're trying to protect you. This transition, the timeline, all of it, it's designed to let you step away with dignity, on your terms. But if you fight this, if you make it difficult, then the board has other options. Options that are less favorable. To me. To everyone, Logan said. This doesn't have to be ugly, Dad. We're family. Let's handle it like family. I hung up. Sat at the kitchen table with my coffee getting cold and the email thread still open on my screen. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic from the main road. They were going to remove me. My wife, my son, my daughter. They'd planned it down to the timeline and the talking points. They'd decided I was the problem. The outdated founder, the guy who'd ruin it by being himself. And they'd kept me away from the event specifically, so I wouldn't see it coming. My phone buzzed again. Another email notification. This one was a calendar invite, sent directly to me. Fitness for Duty conversation, HR conference room. Today, 2 p.m., fitness for duty. They weren't wasting time. I stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the manicured lawn Harper had insisted we maintain, the flower beds that cost more per month than most people's rent. Everything about this house, this life, was designed to look successful, to project the right image. I'd spent 23 years building something real, something that mattered. And somewhere along the way, my family had decided I was the liability. I grabbed my jacket. They wanted to have a conversation about my fitness for duty? Fine. But I was going to have a few conversations of my own first, starting with finding out exactly what Plan B entailed. The corporate office was 15 minutes away. I'd made the drive so many times I could do it on autopilot, past the shopping center, left at the light with the broken timing, up the hill to the glass and steel building that still looked too fancy for what we actually did. We manufactured component parts for industrial equipment. Boring work, profitable work. The kind of business that didn't need a headquarters with a marble lobby, but Harper had insisted. Image, she'd said. Credibility. I parked in my usual spot, the one marked, reserved D. Harlow, founder. The sign had been there since we moved into this building 8 years ago. I wondered how long it would take them to replace it. I didn't go through the main entrance. Instead, I walked around to the side, through the loading dock entrance where suppliers made deliveries. The security guard on duty was Tom, a retired cop who'd been with us for 5 years. He looked up from his phone and nodded. Morning, Mr. Harlow. Morning, Tom. Not your usual schedule, he said. Not a question, just an observation. Had to grab something from my office. He nodded again, went back to his phone. I kept walking into the service corridor that ran behind the main offices, past the break room and the supply closets, and the door marked Server Room, Authorized Access Only. My badge still worked. The light blinked green. The lock clicked open. Inside, the server room was cold and loud with the hum of cooling fans. I'd been in here exactly twice, once during setup, once when we had a power failure. I wasn't here for the servers. I was here for the backup router in the corner, the one connected to the old security system we'd kept running in parallel with the new one. I knelt down, opened the panel. The screen showed the last 30 days of badge access logs. I scrolled through. Main entrance, side doors, executive parking, conference rooms, every swipe in and out, time-stamped and tagged with a badge number. I searched for my own number first, checked my access history. Nothing unusual. Then I searched for Logan's. He'd been in the building at 11:30 p.m. 3 nights ago. A Wednesday. The office was normally empty by 7. I checked Tessa's logs. Same night, 11:45 p.m. Harper's access code showed her entering at 11:15. They'd all been here, late at night, together. I took a photo of the screen with my phone. Then I scrolled further back, found 3 other instances in the past month where all 3 of them had come in after hours. Always on nights when I'd been traveling for client meetings or stuck at home with calls. Always coordinated. I closed the panel, stood up. My knees creaked, a reminder that I was 51, not 30. That I'd spent 2 decades building this company with my hands and my brain, and apparently my family had decided that was no longer valuable. I left through the service corridor, took the stairs up to the 3rd floor where my office was. The hallway was quiet. Most people didn't arrive until 9. I swiped my badge at my office door. The light blinked red. I tried again. Red. I tried a 3rd time, slower, making sure the badge made full contact. Red. They'd locked me out of my own office. I stood there, staring at the reader, feeling something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. Coordinated. They'd cut my access while I was home drinking beer on the deck, thinking I was just having a bad night. My phone buzzed, a text from Patricia in HR. Dean, just confirming our 2 p.m. meeting. Conference room B. Looking forward to our conversation. Looking forward. I typed back, I'll be there. Then I walked back downstairs, out through the loading dock, and got in my car. Sat behind the wheel with the engine off, staring at the building I'd helped build, from a rented industrial space to this glass monument to success. They wanted a conversation about my fitness for duty. I was going to give them one they'd remember. But first, I needed to understand exactly what they were planning. And that meant finding the one document they'd be most careful to hide, the full transition plan. Not the sanitized version they'd pitched to the board, the real one, the one that laid out exactly how they planned to erase me. I knew where to look. Harper kept copies of everything. Board minutes, strategic plans, financial projections. She had a filing system at home that would make a librarian weep with joy. If there was a master document, a full breakdown of their plan, she'd have a copy. Probably in her home office, in the locked filing cabinet she thought I didn't know how to open. I'd installed that lock myself. I knew exactly how to open it. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed home. The house was empty when I got back. Harper was at the office, probably preparing for my fitness for duty conversation, making sure all the talking points were aligned. I stood in the foyer for a moment, listening to the silence. The central air hummed. A clock ticked somewhere. Otherwise, nothing. I walked upstairs to Harper's office. She'd claimed the room at the end of the hall years ago, right after we moved in. It had the best natural light, she'd said. A view of the backyard. Space for her desk and filing cabinets, and the small seating area where she held her strategy sessions, meetings with Tessa or Logan or occasionally people from the company whose names I didn't always recognize. The door was open. I stepped inside. Everything was organized with the kind of precision that made my own workspace look like a hurricane aftermath. Books arranged by color on built-in shelves, a desk with nothing on it except a lamp and a leather blotter. 2 filing cabinets against the far wall, one labeled personal, the other professional. I went to the professional cabinet first, tried the handle. Locked, as expected. The key was taped under the bottom drawer, Harper's idea of security. I'd found it by accident 2 years ago while helping her move furniture. She'd said it was just for organization purposes, that she didn't like people rifling through board documents without permission. I'd thought it was paranoid at the time. Now I understood. I unlocked the cabinet, started with the top drawer. Files organized alphabetically, annual reports, board minutes, bylaws, corporate strategy, donor relations. I pulled the corporate strategy folder. Inside were printed PowerPoint decks, 5-year projections, market analyses. Professional, boring, nothing about removing the founder. I checked board minutes next. Thick stack of documents, each meeting carefully documented. I flipped through the most recent ones, scanning for keywords. Transition, removal, founder succession, nothing explicit. Just the usual corporate language about strategic positioning and leadership development. The bylaws folder was more interesting. Inside was our original incorporation paperwork, articles of organization, operating agreements. But tucked in the back was a newer document, dated 3 months ago, titled Amended Voting Procedures, Board Resolution 47. I pulled it out, read the first page. It was a change to how board votes were conducted. Previously, major decisions required a 2/3 majority. The amendment dropped it to simple majority for operational efficiency, and it expanded the board from 5 members to 7 to incorporate diverse stakeholder perspectives. I hadn't voted on this. I hadn't even seen it. I checked the signature page. Harper had signed as secretary. Logan had signed as VP of Operations. Tessa had signed as Director of Strategic Initiatives, a title I didn't remember her having. And 3 signatures I didn't recognize. Names I'd never heard of. They'd restructured the board without telling me, which meant they'd also restructured the voting power. And with 7 members instead of 5, simple majority instead of 2/3, they didn't need me anymore. They could outvote me on anything, including my own removal. I took photos of every page. The second filing cabinet, the personal one, had its own lock, different key. This one wasn't taped under any drawer. I checked the obvious places, under the desk blotter, in the pencil holder, taped to the back of the desk. Nothing. I stood there, thinking. Harper was methodical. She wouldn't leave something important unprotected, but she also wouldn't make it so complicated she couldn't access it herself. The key had to be somewhere logical, somewhere she could get to easily, but I wouldn't think to look. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the office park where we'd started everything, the industrial building with the broken air conditioning and the loading dock we'd used as a meeting room. The place was dark now, just a storage facility with a faded sign and an empty parking lot, but I pulled around to the back where the old loading dock still jutted out from the building like a concrete tongue. I parked, turned off the engine, sat in the silence. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Harper, Logan, Tessa, even Grant again. I turned it off, just held it in my hand and stared at the loading dock where I'd signed our first real contract 23 years ago. The client had been skeptical. We were too small, too new, too risky. But I'd convinced him by showing him our work. No pitch deck, no corporate presentation, just the actual components we'd machined, the quality control process, the delivery timeline we'd hit for our first few trial orders. He'd signed on that loading dock because the work was good and the numbers made sense. That was all it took. Good work, fair price, deliver on time. Somewhere between then and now, it had stopped being about the work and started being about the story, the image, the optics, and I'd become a liability because I still cared more about the work than the performance. I turned my phone back on, scrolled through my contacts until I found Jim Westfield, one of our original clients from the early days. He'd retired 5 years ago, moved to North Carolina, but we'd stayed in touch. Mostly him checking in to make sure I hadn't sold out completely. His words. I called him. He answered on the 4th ring. Dean Harlow, it's been months. You finally selling out completely? Worse, my family's trying to force me out of my own company. Silence. Then, Jesus, what happened? I told him. Not everything, not the 43-page plan or the fake board members, but the core of it. That Logan and Tessa had decided I was outdated, that Harper was helping them, that they'd restructured the board and given themselves voting control, and were moving to remove me within weeks. Jim listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "What do you need?" "I need to know if I'm crazy, if I'm actually the problem they're describing, or if this is what I think it is." "What do you think it is?" "A takeover, coordinated, professional, designed to look like succession planning when it's actually erasure." "And you have proof?" "I have documents, board minutes, the transition plan itself, access logs showing they've been meeting after hours without me, communications proving they hired consultants to build the narrative." "Then you're not crazy. You're being played." Jim's voice was hard. "I've seen this before. Usually it's outside investors or private equity vultures. But family? That's low, Dean. That's really low." "So what do I do?" "Fight, but fight smart. They have the board votes, which means you can't win through normal channels. You need to change the game. Make them fight on terrain they didn't prepare for." "Like what?" "Like public opinion, like client relationships, like the operational knowledge they don't actually have." He paused. "How many key clients do you have personal relationships with?" "Most of them. I've been in the field for 23 years. "And how many of those clients even know Logan or Tessa?" I thought about it. "Maybe half know Logan from transition meetings. Maybe 3 or 4 know Tessa from donor events." "So they're trying to take over a company where the founder has direct relationships with the majority of the revenue base, and they think that'll go smoothly?" "They're planning to transfer relationships, ease clients into new points of contact." Jim laughed. "Good luck with that. Industrial clients don't transfer easily. They work with people they trust, and trust isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn over years of delivering." "You think the clients would push back?" "I think if the clients knew what was happening, some of them would have opinions. Strong opinions. And those opinions would make a board vote a lot more complicated." I hadn't thought about that. I'd been so focused on the internal mechanics, the board votes, the bylaws, the procedural manipulations, that I'd forgotten the company didn't exist in a vacuum. We had clients who'd been with us for decades, relationships that predated Logan's involvement entirely, contracts that included personal guarantees I'd signed. "You're saying I should tell the clients what's happening?" "I'm saying transparency is a powerful weapon, especially when the other side is counting on you staying quiet." I thanked him, hung up, sat in my car staring at the loading dock and thinking about client relationships. Our biggest account was Reynolds Manufacturing, the one Harper and Logan claimed I'd nearly lost. The truth was more complicated. I'd pushed back on their initial terms because they wanted a 20% price reduction with no corresponding change in specs or delivery timeline. I'd said no. They'd threatened to walk. I'd called their bluff, showed them competitive quotes that proved our pricing was fair, and renegotiated terms that actually worked for both sides. Logan had smoothed things over after by taking their procurement director to golf. Fine. But the contract we ended up with was better than the one they'd originally proposed, and it was better because I'd been willing to say no. Would Reynolds support me if they knew what was happening? Or would they see it as family drama and stay neutral? Only one way to find out. I pulled up my contacts. Found Bill Hargrove, the COO at Reynolds. We'd worked together for 12 years. Grabbed lunch maybe twice a year, usually to talk shop and complain about supply chain chaos. I called him. "Dean, how's it going?" "Honestly, Bill, not great. I need to talk to you about something confidential. Do you have a few minutes?" "Sure, what's up?" I told him. A condensed version, that there was a push from inside my company to remove me from leadership, that it was being framed as succession planning, but was actually a hostile transition, that the board had been restructured without my knowledge, and that I was being locked out of operations while they built a case for my removal. Bill was quiet for a moment. Then, "Who's pushing this?" "My family. My son, my daughter, and their spouses. My wife's been—" I paused. "I don't know where my wife actually stands. She says she's trying to help, but she's been at every planning meeting." "Jesus, Dean." "Yeah. What do you need from me?" "I need to know where Reynolds stands. If there's a change in leadership, If Logan takes over operations, does that affect our contract? I mean, contractually, no. Our agreement is with the company, not with you personally. But practically? He exhaled. Yeah, it matters. You're the one I call when we have problems. You're the one who understands our production requirements. Logan's fine. He's professional. He knows the relationship side. But I don't know if he understands the technical side the way you do. Would Reynolds raise concerns if I were forced out? Longer pause. Is that what you're asking? If we'd intervene? I'm asking if you'd want to know about a leadership transition before it happens. If it would affect your confidence in our partnership. Dean, I can't get involved in internal family stuff. That's not my place. I'm not asking you to get involved. I'm asking if you'd want transparency. If it matters to Reynolds, who's running the company they've been partnering with for 12 years. Of course it matters. But no buts, Bill. Just yes or no. Does leadership matter to Reynolds? Yes, of course it does. Then I'm giving you a heads up. There's going to be an announcement soon about a leadership transition. It'll be framed as voluntary, as succession planning, as me wanting to step back for health or family reasons. But that's not the truth. The truth is, I'm being forced out by people who don't understand the operational side of what we do, and who are making decisions based on image and growth projections instead of actual capability. Bill was quiet. I'm not asking you to take sides, I continued. I'm just asking you to ask questions if it happens, to make sure whoever's running the company can actually deliver what you need, because if they can't, it affects your production timeline, and that's your business to care about. Dean, just think about it. That's all I'm asking. I hung up before he could argue. Then I called 3 more clients. Same conversation, different names. By the end of it, I'd planted seeds with 4 of our largest accounts, enough to make a board vote complicated if those clients started asking questions about operational continuity. It wasn't sabotage, it was transparency. If Logan and Tessa wanted to take over, they could, but they'd have to prove they could actually run the company without me. And if they couldn't, the clients would know before it was too late. My phone rang. Trevor. Dean, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to be careful. HR just sent out a company-wide memo about respecting confidentiality during organizational transitions. That's aimed at you. What else did it say? That employees should direct questions about leadership to official channels only, and that unauthorized communications about company matters could result in disciplinary action. They're trying to shut down gossip. Or trying to control the narrative. Yeah, probably. But Dean, if they're sending memos, they're worried, which means whatever you're doing is working. Or it means they're accelerating their timeline. Could be that too. Trevor paused. What's your endgame here? Because even if you make them nervous, they still have the votes. They can still remove you. My endgame is making sure everyone knows exactly what they're doing. If they want to remove me, fine, but they'll do it in full daylight with everyone watching and with the consequences landing on them instead of me. That's scorched earth, Dean. No, scorched earth would be burning down the company to stop them. This is just making sure the fire they started burns them too. I hung up. Checked the time. 8:47 p.m. I had missed dinner. Probably had a dozen messages from Harper asking where I was, whether I was coming home, whether we could talk like adults. I didn't want to talk like adults. I wanted to know whose side she was actually on. And the only way to know that was to force her to choose. I drove home. The house was lit up, every window glowing, like someone had turned on every light specifically so I'd know people were inside. I parked in the driveway, walked to the front door. It was unlocked. Inside, voices, the kitchen. I walked in and found all of them. Harper, Logan, Tessa, Brooke, Grant. Sitting around our kitchen table like this was a normal family gathering. Wine glasses, a cheese board, The illusion of civility. They all looked up when I entered. Dean! Harper stood. We've been worried. No, you haven't. Logan stood too. Dad, we need to talk. Really talk, not like earlier. Earlier you threatened me with fake fitness evaluations and told me I'd be removed with or without my cooperation. What's changed? Nothing's changed, Brooke said. But we're trying to find a resolution that doesn't destroy everyone. I looked at Grant. Did you show them the term sheet you offered me? I mentioned it. And? And they're willing to improve the terms, Grant said. 40% equity instead of 30, full board seat instead of advisory role, better consulting contract. Wow. 40% of the company I built. Of the company that will continue to exist, Logan said. Dad, you're not being rational about this. We're offering you a good deal, more than most founders get in a transition. Most founders aren't being forced out by their own children. Tessa flinched. That's not fair. What's not fair is staging a coup and then calling it succession planning. What's not fair is lying to me for months while you restructured the board and built a removal strategy. What's not fair is threatening to claim I'm mentally unstable if I don't comply with your timeline. We're not lying, Tessa said. We're trying to save the company from what? From me? From the guy who built it? The guy who still has relationships with every major client? The guy who actually knows how operations work? From stagnation, Logan said. From missed opportunities. From leadership that won't adapt to market changes. I adapt fine. I just don't adapt to bad ideas. See, this is what we're talking about, Brooke interjected. You dismiss every suggestion that doesn't align with your vision. You reject growth opportunities because they feel too risky. You fight modernization because it threatens your control. That's not adaptation. That's resistance. I looked at Harper. She was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Tell them about Reynolds, I said to her. She didn't respond. Tell them how I nearly lost that contract by negotiating better terms that protected our margins and our delivery capabilities. Tell them that Logan's golf outing was nice, but ultimately irrelevant because the contract we got was based on my pushback, not his smoothing over. Dad, Logan said, that's not... Or tell them about Portland, the one you claimed would position us perfectly for the next 5 years. Did you tell them it would have required leveraging the company at a 3-to-1 debt ratio? Did you mention that the market analysis was based on projections from a consulting firm that gets paid more if they recommend expansion? Did you explain that if those projections were even 20% optimistic, we'd be bankrupt within 18 months? Logan's jaw tightened. That's an oversimplification. No. That's the reality you didn't want to examine because you were in love with the growth story. This is exactly what I mean, Brooke said. You see risk everywhere. You can't see opportunity. I see risk where it exists. You see opportunity where you want it to exist. There's a difference. Harper finally spoke. Dean, sit down, please. Let's talk about this calmly. I am calm. I'm just not compliant. Those aren't the same thing. No one's asking you to be compliant. We're asking you to be reasonable. Reasonable would be not staging a coup. Reasonable would be having an honest conversation about succession instead of restructuring the board behind my back. Reasonable would be treating me like a partner instead of a problem to be managed. We tried honest conversations, Tessa said. For months. Every time we brought up strategic changes, you shut them down. Every time we suggested new directions, you found reasons to say no. At some point, we had to accept that you weren't going to change willingly. So you decided to change me out. We decided to move forward with or without your approval. That's not betrayal, that's governance. I pulled out my phone, set it on the table. I've been documenting everything. The board minutes showing you restructured voting without proper disclosure. The access logs proving you've been meeting after hours without me. The transition plan that outlines exactly how you're framing my removal. The communications with fake consultants and shell board members. All of it. Everyone looked at the phone. "What are you planning to do with that?" Logan asked carefully. "I'm planning to make sure everyone knows the truth. The board, the clients, the employees, everyone." "That would violate confidentiality agreements," Brooke said. "So sue me. You're already planning to remove me. What's one more legal battle?" "Dean," Harper said, "please don't do this. You'll regret it." "Will I? Or will you?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she stood, walked around the table, stood directly in front of me. "You want to know whose side I'm on?" she said quietly. "Fine, I'll tell you. I'm on the side of not destroying everything we've built. I'm on the side of preserving this family and this company, and if that means choosing between you and the kids, between your pride and their future, then yes, I'm choosing them." The kitchen went completely silent. "Because they're right," Harper continued. "Not about everything, not about the way they've handled this, but about the core issue. You're not adapting, Dean. You're fighting every change like it's a personal attack. And at some point, someone had to make a decision about the company's future. I wish it didn't have to be this way. I wish you could see that we're trying to protect you. But you can't. So yes, I'm helping them. Not because I don't love you, but because I love all of you, and I'm trying to minimize the damage you're about to cause." I stared at her. My wife of 26 years. The woman who'd stood beside me in a Denny's parking lot and said we could do this. The woman who'd believed in me when no one else did. "When did I become the damage?" I asked. "When you stopped being willing to change." I picked up my phone, put it back in my pocket. "Okay," I said. "Okay?" Harper repeated. "Okay, you've chosen. Everyone in this room has chosen. You've decided I'm the problem, and you've decided to remove me. So now I'm going to make a choice too." "What choice?" Logan asked. "Whether to make this quiet or loud. Whether to let you erase me with dignity or expose everything you've done in front of everyone who matters. And I've decided." I looked at each of them. Logan, confident he'd already won. Tessa, guilty but committed. Brooke, calculating her next move. Grant, playing his mediator role. And Harper, standing in front of me like a wall I couldn't get through. "I'm going loud," I said. "Full transparency. Every document, every communication, every vote, every lie you've told yourselves about why this is necessary, all of it, public, loud, and permanent." "You'll destroy the company," Logan said. "No. I'll force you to defend what you've done. If your plan is solid, if your reasoning is sound, then you'll be fine. But if it's not, if people see it for what it is, then you'll have to live with the consequences." "Dean, please." I walked past Harper. Out of the kitchen, up the stairs to our bedroom, started packing a bag. She followed me. "Where are you going?" "Hotel. I'm not staying in a house full of people actively plotting against me." "We're not plotting. We're trying to help. Help implies consent. This is coercion." She sat on the edge of the bed, watched me throw clothes into a duffel bag. "If you do this, if you go public, you'll lose everything. Your reputation, your relationships, your legacy, everything you've worked for." "I've already lost it. You've already taken it. This is just making sure everyone knows what happened. It doesn't have to be this way." I stopped, looked at her. "Yes, it does, because you've made it clear whose side you're on, and it's not mine. I'm on everyone's side." "No, you're on the side you think will win. That's not the same thing." I zipped the bag, grabbed my laptop case, walked to the door. "Dean." I stopped, didn't turn around. "I loved you," she said. "I still love you. But I can't watch you destroy yourself trying to hold on to something that's already gone." "It's not gone. You gave it away. There's a difference." I left her sitting on the bed, went downstairs. The kitchen was empty now. Everyone had apparently decided the conversation was over. I walked out the front door, got in my car, drove to the closest hotel, checked in, went to my room, set my bag on the floor and my laptop on the desk. Then I opened my laptop and started writing. Not an email, not a memo, a comprehensive document detailing everything that had happened over the past 6 months. The board restructuring, the access restrictions, the after-hours meetings, the fake consultants, the transition plan, the threats, the manipulation. Every detail, every date, every piece of evidence. I worked until 3 in the morning. When I finished, the document was 27 pages long, thorough, documented, damning. I attached it to an email, addressed it to every board member, every major client, every key employee. 47 recipients total. The subject line, leadership transition, full transparency. My finger hovered over the send button. This was the line. Once I sent this, there was no walking it back. No reconciliation, no quiet resolution, just war. I thought about Harper's face when she said she was choosing the kids. I thought about Logan's confidence that he'd already won. I thought about Tessa's guilt that wasn't strong enough to stop her. I thought about 23 years of building something real only to have my own family decide it would look better without me. I pressed